List.io.
Well, there I am with my dog Bob. Bob, had he been in San Diego, would have been handing out Bob's Ass Awards right and left. But he wasn't. We were. I wasn't going to go, but my old friend Gabe El Taib, who's the creator of Big Man Comics, said, "You got to come. You got to come. You can stay at my place." So I did. Uh, and I went and I had a great time hooking up with old pals when I could find them because the San Diego Comic Con is held in a room the size of 3 football fields. And there were 125,000 people in that room Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And it was almost impossible to get anywhere unless you know the secret of getting through the crowd. No, I'm not going to share it here because then everybody would be using it and we'd be back where we started. Everybody was stuck because everybody's using it and then nobody can get through the crowd. But the crowds they did not disappoint. They were massive. There were a lot of cosplayers. We started on Wednesday evening for the setup, and Wednesday evening they let the elite corps in at from 7 till 9, so we got a taste of what was coming. Gabe's booth, the Big Man Comics booth, was about the size of a laundry closet, and it was next to a guy selling ocarinas. And he kept playing the ocarina over and over. The theme to Star Wars, I must have heard it 1,000 times that weekend. And when he's right next to you, it gets a little irritating. So I said, well, I'll get this guy to cool it. And I went over there and I said, "Can you play A Night in Tunisia?" And he played it. So I said, "All right, guy, you got a right to sing the blues. So my hands are off."
He earned your respect,
Yeah,
and then you just had to leave him alone.
I did, yeah. I did have a pair of shooter's muffs, though, that Gabe keeps in his car, and I was able to put those on to damp the worst of it. I have my own pair, but I forgot to bring them.
Yeah, San Diego was a lot of fun this year. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it was all about the big studios and their big booths and their streaming and all that stuff. That didn't come across to me as the focus this year. You did have Marvel showing off the Doomsday costumes. I was excited that they had Gambit featured up there on the stage, and they had a really cool, you know what? I know that I wasn't as prepared as you, Mike, and I didn't send in any photos, but I do have some on my phone, and I want to show you one of my favorite displays they did. It's the Sentinel head. It's like a life-size Sentinel head, so people could go in and get photos with it and act like they're in a scene from Avengers Doomsday. I really enjoyed I'm standing 30 feet away from it, so
holy
it was big. That was kind of a cool thing. And then here's that shot of the costume. So there's Captain America. Who is this in the middle? I can't even read it. And then Gambit. That's the one that matters right there for me. I'm a Louisiana guy, so I've always loved Gambit. So having him in the movies in a meaningful way could be really cool.
When it took approaching the con on Thursday morning, Gabe lives about 6 miles away, and it's pretty fast until you get in downtown San Diego, and then the traffic was backed up for about a mile because they have all these mazes set up. Now, Gabe is, because he's been going for so many years and has a regular spot, he has a parking spot below the con in the con parking.
Hold on, Mike. I'm pausing because I got a midline in and the doctor's calling me. I'm going to mute and take this call while you
take care of the doc. I'll carry on. But Gabe got papers. They says, show us your papers, show us your papers. And when he holds the papers up in the window of his truck, the cops wave him through, we go down and park, and then we can go up into the con. But the first day, uh, actually Wednesday night, was it took me like a half hour to get my pass. I'm an Inkpot Award winner, and all Inkpot Award winners have open pass to every San Diego Comic Con. We don't have to pay; we just have to claim it. But it was hard to claim because we were trying to claim it when 10,000 other people were trying to claim their passes. And they had all these different security agencies working the con, and they didn't know each other. And most of them, they're not comics fans. They don't know who's who. Um, so we had to find the right gate. We go to door G. They say, no, you want door B. We go to door B. And they say, no, go back to door G. And back and forth. And finally, we went upstairs and we made it to the sales pavilion. And I got my pass. And we were able to get inside. But the next day, I ran into Jackie Estrada. Now, people who know the con know that Jackie Estrada was one of the creators of the San Diego Comic Con in the 70s, before the convention center had even been built. In those days, they held it at the El Cortez Hotel. That was the first con I attended. I think it was in 1988, but I can't be sure. But I do know it was Jack Kirby's 70th birthday, and he came into the El Cortez, into the ballroom, and I just stood in line to shake his hand. It was an honor to shake his hand. I didn't hang out with him a lot like my partner Steve Rude did. Steve used to live in Los Angeles, and he'd go over to Kirby's house all the time and talk to him about art, which I thought that was great. But then they built the convention center. Well, in the first couple of years they built it, it was more than adequate. But then the convention kept getting bigger and bigger because, as Phil pointed out, Hollywood was invited, and Hollywood understood that this was a great venue to promote their projects, because they're doing so many comic-based projects, and they're still doing them. Some are doing better than others. But back then, at the dawn of the comic book projects, when I say the dawn, I mean since the convention center was built and they started doing movies like The Avengers and Captain America, the Winter Soldier, which is my favorite Marvel superhero comic movie, because it's very serious and it's based on a great premise. But they've struggled with it over the years, as we all know. The first Iron Man was great. The second Iron Man was pretty good. The third Iron Man was a little bit of embarrassing because they didn't know what to do with the character, I don't think. At least it seemed that way to me. Is Phil, is he still on the phone with his doctor?
It appears so, yeah.
Yeah.
It appears so.
I shouldn't have said that. Forget it, folks. They're giving Phil good news. And then, of course, the DC movies, subsequent Superman movies. By subsequent, I mean after the Christopher Reeve movie. Some of those movies, Justice League movies, Supergirl. Supergirl is the most recent. I haven't seen it, and I confess I don't have much interest in those movies these days because of what I hear about them. And if the movie doesn't take itself seriously, why should I? That's true of every story I read.
I have a question for you, Mike.
Yeah.
As someone who's done adaptations of epic writings, give me Chris Nolan in The Odyssey in 10 words or less.
I wish I could, Pops, but I've never read it. I will say this about my adaptations, most notably Timothy Zahn, but I've also done a bunch of Michael Moorcock, is when I adapt a novel by a great writer, I don't use any of my own language. I don't invent anything. All the dialogue in there is dialogue I took out of the book.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's all I ask.
Yeah. On Thursday, which was the first full day of the con, I was waiting to get in, and they have this staggered get in. If you have a booth and you're paying for it, you can get in at 9:00, but everybody else has to wait until 9:30. And I was milling around outside, and I run into Jackie Estrada. And as I mentioned, Jackie created the con, or she's largely responsible for the creation of the con, along with a few others. And she's been there since the beginning. She's in charge of the Eisner Awards and the Inkpot Awards. And I said, Jackie, what are you doing? She says, I'm trying to get in. So we went to a door, and she's wearing her badge. And it says Jackie Estrada. And the young guard there has no knowledge of comics. He's just happy to have a job. And she said, can we get in? He says, no, ma'am, you have to wait. And I said, do you know who this is? This is Jackie Estrada. She created the San Diego Comic Convention. He says, I'm sorry, I don't know anything about that. I have my orders. You have to wait. So we waited, and then we got in. But it was great seeing her. This was her last year presiding over the awards ceremonies. I'm sorry I missed them. I should have gone, but there was just so much going on. I had dinner one night with my old pal, Harold German, who does the Calico comic. And then, of course, I had dinner with Gabe and then a couple of other friends. And it was a whirlwind. But the whole time I was there at the con, we had a few people stop by. But the problem with the con is it's such a riot. It's like a tropical jungle of plants bursting everywhere, books and booths you want to see everywhere. Everywhere I looked, I saw booths with fascinating books, just beautiful books. I could have spent $100,000 on books there, and then they pushed me out of the house. But you know, like most people watching the show, and most of you who are comics aficionados, we all have more books than we've read. We all have dozens and dozens of books we are meaning to get to but haven't got to yet.
You know, Mike, I got to tell you, there's a book that I picked up that I'm really excited about, and it's called Bronze Star 2. I mean, I was pretty much at the Antarctic Press booth the entire show. I did not buy anything. I bought one thing at San Diego Comic-Con, and it was Bronze Star 2. Art is fantastic. It's such a cool book. I haven't had time to read it yet.
All right.
I got back, and I've been in chaos mode since.
Yeah.
But I am so excited to have that. I think I got one of the last 2 copies that Mike had at the show.
Yes, too.
And I was like, dude, I need it. So yeah, it was an honor. We were signing AxiCab stuff, and I was really excited that Mike Barron, the legendary Mike Barron right there, joined me at the Antarctic Press booth, and we signed the new AxiCab mini series or limited series poster for issue number 1. It was done by Billy Tan, who did X-23 and New Avengers and Green Lantern, and he's a legend. Pop it up. Pop up that AxiCab poster. That was the one that we were signing. So there it is. There's the driver. He's run over somebody, and he's just really, really happy about enjoying his handiwork. And what was great is Billy Tan did the pencils and inks, and then Lee Duig, who's also part of the Guru FX team that does a ton of books for Marvel, did our colors. You may not be able to see this online, but the rain and the blown out hair where the headlights blowing out the hair on his right side, and Lee just killed it on that color. And so we did a deal where you could buy a poster for $10, but if you signed up for my mailing list for AxiCab, you got a free poster, and we all signed it. So we have Mike and Lee and I signed a bunch of posters that we all 3 signed for this, and those will be part of our Kickstarter. But it was a lot of fun, and I was basically there for 3 days. You know, you can pull that down, Pops. One of the things that's great about San Diego is everybody's there that cares about pop culture, And so we had some people come by the booth to look at AxiCab, and I was like geeking out. One of the producers for the game World of Warcraft came by, bought the comic, loved it, got me to sign it, and was just geeking out over it. We had the guy who directed the new reboot of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes came by. Athena Finger came by and got a poster. And anybody that knows comic books knows her grandfather, even if you don't know his name. her grandfather is Bill Finger, who co-created Batman with Bob Kane. And Athena and her family fought for years to get her grandfather credit. They would never give him credit, and she finally won. I think her dad, and then she picked up the torch, and now there's an award called the Bill Finger Award, and it's for a comic creator that never got the credit they deserved. And so Gardner Fox, I was on the Gardner Fox panel. Once again, all the people on the panel, I come from a different perspective because I wasn't reading comic books in the silver and golden age. I was reading comics in the 80s, when I was a little kid. And so they're going down the line, and we have historians on the panel, Alex Grand and Bill Field, and an exec from MGM who's a comic historian. And then Gardner Fox's grandson and granddaughter were on the panel. And they're all like, well, how did you first discover Gardner Fox? Or, and I said, or what made you a fan of Gardner Fox? And I was on the very end. And so I went last, and I just said, you know what? I was a Gardner Fox fan, but I just didn't know it because I didn't know who he was, and I said the fact that he won a Bill Finger Award really solidifies that, because in the 80s, you didn't have the internet. You didn't have easy searches for all this historical archival material. And, but I loved Crisis on Infinite Earth. And that led straight in to Mike's, reboot of The Flash in the 80s after Barry Allen was killed, right, Mike? And then
yes.
You came in with Wally West, right?
Yes.
And so, he invented the whole concept of the multiverse. He also invented the concept of the team. He was the first guy to do a true multi-character superhero team with famous characters, Justice League and other teams in the DC universe. And he also really was the first to bring, maybe other people did it in a small way, but he did it on a large way. He brought continuity into a comic publisher, where what happens in Batman makes a difference in Superman and Plastic Man and Hawkman and all these different things. So the guy really, was an architect of how we do modern comic books, or how publishers create modern comics. So it was a really big honor to be on that panel. I had a lot of fun. Alex Grand moderated it, who runs the Comic Historians YouTube channel. And it was so much fun. It was, as a little kid, Mike, you've been in this business for a while, at least 10 years, But if you would have asked me 20 years ago if I would be signing autographs of a book I created at San Diego Comic-Con, I wouldn't have believed you. And there I was sitting next to you, and we're signing a book that we're working on together. And it was just surreal for me and a lot of fun. And so, yeah, this was my best San Diego Comic-Con ever, because it's the first one I actually had a comic book, and that I actually had that people wanted signatures on it. So it was a great milestone, and it was an honor to have you there with me, because I've said this before. I was a Mike Baron fan back when I started reading Punisher, Flash, Nexus, Badger, all these things. And here we are today. You're writing Axicab. It blows my mind.
It blows my mind. And for people who don't know, Axicab is a throwback to the grindhouse horror films of the 80s. And it's about a deranged taxi driver who himself is inscrutably evil. And he picks up people that are evil, fares that are evil. He doesn't pick on the innocent. He lets them out of his cab before he gets down to business. And the business is devising the most excruciating deaths imaginable for these people,
in a way that they deserve because of what they've done. I always joke that Axicab is like Dexter meets Saw. Over the top kills. Not super realistic, with the machines that we use to kill the victims, but also, the people that he's going after are pretty horrible humans themselves. So it's a really, it's kind of weird to say, oh, it's a fun book, but it is a fun book. And, when I was working in Vegas with Chris Angel, there's a restaurant next door to Chris's theater at Planet Hollywood called the Strip House. It's a steakhouse. Okay. And I was in there and talking to the manager a few weeks ago, and gave her a copy of Axicab. And like while I was at San Diego, she texted me. She said, "I've never liked horror comics, but I loved your comic book. I let my kid read it. My kid loved it. When's the next one coming out?" So we're getting great feedback, and I think that with you at the helm of the writing, it's just taking on a new level of coolness. So
I can't wait to start the next one, which is about the evil drug manufacturer who says, "Well, this will cure what ails you," and then they start talking about the side effects that cause boils on the back of your neck, liver problem, kidney failure, and we've all heard.
May cause spontaneous rectal bleeding. No.
He's not making that up.
It's funny. Some of the erectile dysfunction pills, whenever they advertise this, like may cause extreme diarrhea. So it's like now you can go hook up, but you may take a dump on her. You may explode and do some graffiti in the middle of the act. So sorry, I've derailed. I want to talk about one more book I really thought was cool at San Diego. My good buddy Bob Burden, creator of the Flaming Carrot, Mystery Men, writer of the Gumby comics with Art Adams and Rick Geary, teamed up with the Santos sisters. So the Santos sisters won an Eisner last year, and it's a really cool book about these two sisters that when they put on these masks, they get some powers, and then they go around and fight people and help people, and it's a really fun book. Well, Bob wrote a multi-issue run for them, and he printed out 200 preview copies that he sold at San Diego Comic-Con for $100 a comic.
Wow, he gave me one.
Yes, but here's what was cool. He did not keep any of that money. Basically, he said, "I want this," and he told everybody, "We're going to do $100 a book, and all the money is going to go to the guys that actually make the book, and help them with travel." They weren't at San Diego. They won an Eisner last year, and they're not at San Diego this year because nobody gets rich on comic books, especially indie books right now, unless you get a movie deal, or something like that. And so all the money from the books Bob sold went to them. And what he did on the back, it's really cool. The two guys that create Santos Sisters are a guy named Greg and a guy named Fake. And the back is printed with 3 sketch spots for Bob, Fake, and Greg. So anybody that bought this can find the guys doing the book and get them to do some sketches. All right, my doctor's calling back.
That's all right, Phil. We're about to run out of steam here. I mean, there's a lot more. There's too much to cover. I was able to hook up with a lot of old friends of mine. Billy Tucci. Yeah, that's Aaron Sparrow, me, Andy Smith, and Aaron Lopresti. And we often run into each other on podcasts in the evening. And I love those guys. They're 3 of the most talented creators in the business right now. We're all in the independent sphere. Those of us who are able to make a living in the independent sphere are very lucky, but we've done it by building up a following over the years, and we couldn't have done it without first making our bones with the big 2, as those guys did. That's me with Gabe El Taib, my buddy Gabe. We're doing a new book this year. It'll probably be next year before it comes out. It's called Jaeger, which is soldier in German. And it's a vigilante story. And you say, oh, well, there are too many vigilante stories. Well, there are too many bad vigilante stories, but I know how to write a vigilante story.
There ain't Enough vigilante story.
Yeah, they will never run out of steam. The United States was forged by vigilantes. Wyatt Earp was a vigilante. Daniel Boone was a vigilante. They had to be, because as they went west as explorers and adventurers, they left civilization behind. They either brought justice with them or they became criminals themselves. And those that brought justice with them were the true vigilantes, in that they did the right thing. There was no law permitting them to do the right thing or stopping them. There was no law, period. It wasn't until decades after they made the trek west that civilization caught up with them, and towns formed and elected mayors and city councils and created a sheriff's department. But that's it. I mean, that's all I have to say about San Diego. I'm working on a massive Substack describing my experiences there. It was overwhelming. I'm glad I went. I doubt if I'll ever go again. I wasn't going to go this time, but Gabe talked me into it, so here we are. That's it.
I'm glad you went. Phil's glad you
Well,
went.
and you know what, Mike? I will tell you, I lobbied you too. I was less like, Mike, you got to come. You got to come.
That's right.
And if I ever get there, I'll be lobbying you too. So just,
and you know what? Here's one thing, Mike. I want to make you a commit. I want you to make a commitment to me today.
Uh-oh.
If AxiCab is nominated for an award, you have to come.
Okay.
If we get an Eisner or something like that, you know, you have to come, because you got to walk up with me.
All right. That's a deal.
So that's how we'll get Mike back. So basically what we need is a lot of people don't know how the Eisners work. They have a committee that basically selects the nominees, but they have to be submitted. You have to be submitted to be considered. Then it goes in front of a panel, and the panel determines if it's worthy of an Eisner. And then if it's worthy, if it gets the nomination, then it goes out to a vote. And I voted in the Eisners this year. I vote every year. You can vote. Everyone that's in the comic fandom can vote in the Eisners, and a lot of people don't know that. So one of the things I'm really good at is promotion. And so if somehow we can finagle a nomination, I'm going to start a serious get out the vote campaign to try to get us some hardware.
That'd be great.
So I'm working on it. But dude, it was really great to have you there. And I loved it on day 2 when you showed up in your AxiCab shirt.
I knew you would. And then
I thought Mike was just really loving the shirt. He goes, no, it's my only clean shirt. I'm like, ouch, tough crowd.
And then we went out on the end of the pier, and what a refreshing change that
Oh
was.
my gosh. You know, I left my credit card at that place.
No shit. Did you get it back?
Oh yeah, I went back the next day, and I was talking to that guy that was cooking burgers, and he goes, yeah, I turned around and y'all just disappeared, and I didn't catch you. And so yeah, but I went back and got it. I want to give away that little secret. I'm going to give away that little secret to the audience of Barkwire. Is if you go out the back door of the San Diego Convention Center and you walk out next to the big amphitheater music venue, there's a place called Burgers, Beer, and Bait. And it is really good burgers. They do have beer, and you can rent a fishing pole and buy bait and fish off the pier. So if you just need to escape 100,000 people, you can go back there and rent a fishing pole for like $5 and then buy some bait for $5 and just go out there and catch a fish. And you don't have to have a California fishing license if you're fishing off the pier, is what he told me. So next year, I'm going to go catch a fish at San Diego. I think that's going to be my goal.
And then we're going to take it to that little cafe and have them cook it.
Maybe they will. Maybe it's catch and release. I don't know. But it would be funny to say, I'm at San Diego Comic-Con and look, I caught a fish. You know, that's my goal for next year. I probably should have bigger goals, but that is one of my goals for 2027 is to catch a fish during San Diego Comic-Con, but when I'm on my lunch break.
That's an admirable goal, Phil.
It doesn't take much to keep me amused, Mike. But yeah, it was fun, and I appreciate you being there. I am sad that I didn't get to go look at Artist Alley. That's my favorite part, other than my part, is Artist Alley, because it's fun to walk up and down those aisles, and you never know who's going to be sitting there. Legends and emerging artists sitting side by side. And usually when I go, I'll spend a whole day working Artist Alley, just walking to every booth. And if they have a binder with original art in it, I tell myself I'm going to look at every binder with original art. And you never know, the next Todd McFarlane, the next Frank Miller, the next Bob Burden, the next Kevin Eastman, they're all sitting at Artist Alley, and you could find some young artist or even an older artist that's just getting into comics, and buy some original art, support them, and help them get to the next level. And there's just so much talent on Artist Alley. I think anybody that does not go to Artist Alley is missing probably the most important part of San Diego Comic-Con, and that is supporting the creators. Because without the creators, without the writers, the pencilers, the inkers, the letterers, you don't have comic books. And Batman can't be a movie because they didn't make the comic book. So I that's my lobbying. If you ever go to a Comic-Con anywhere in the United States, go support the writers and artists and help them do more of their work, and encourage them, because that's a big encouragement, because you could sit there all day and not sell anything because everybody's running to go buy the new Funko Pop and spending all their money on photo ops with actors. And then they come over like, oh man, I love this, but I don't have $20 left. I spent $750 getting pictures with, the cast of the X-Files, and so save some budget for the artists. Make sure you go by and support the artists, look at their work, talk to them about their work. And that's what really builds this industry.
Amen, brother.
Is that a good soapbox to end on?
Yeah.
Santos Sisters featuring the Flaming Carrot.
If you missed the live viewing of any Meg production, you can find all our content on Roku or as a member of this channel. Madness Entertainment Group.